She was only 10 years old. Red coat, cold wind, long walk home from school that she never finished. Her name was Carmen Colon. The next time anyone saw her, she was dead, tossed down an embankment off Interstate 490, naked, broken, discarded. Carmen wasn't the first child to go missing in America, but she was the first in Rochester to die in what became a haunting pattern, one that would echo across the city and over decades. Carmen Colon, Wander Walkowitz, Michelle Menza. 3 girls, 3 names, alliterative initials, a serial pattern, a chilling possibility. This is Crime Standstill Deep Cuts. I'm Carrie Drobin, and today we reopen one of the most disturbing cold cases in New York history, the Alphabet Murders. I'm going to take you back to the early 1970s. Watergate was brewing. The Zodiac Killer was taunting police in California. Ted Bundy hadn't yet become a household name. And stranger danger, that wasn't even a phrase people knew. It wasn't a thing. Parents still sent their kids to walk home from school, alone. In many communities, including Rochester, New York, the idea that someone would abduct, rape, and strangle a child in broad daylight seemed unthinkable. Rochester was the kind of town where people knew your name at the corner store, where factory jobs paid the bills, and kids played until the streetlights came on. But in the fall of 1971, the city learned something dark, that evil could hide behind familiar faces and walk the same sidewalks. But in 1971, that sense of safety shattered when Carmen Colon disappeared. Back then, serial killer wasn't a term the public really understood. And law enforcement agencies rarely shared information across jurisdictions. There was no DNA database, no Amber Alert, just trauma and newspaper headlines and fear. The murders of these 3 girls, just 10 and 11 years old, became one of the first cases to awaken a generation to the reality of child predators. Carmen Colon was the first. She had dimples, walked with purpose, loved making her grandmother laugh. In November of 1971, she'd left to go to a pharmacy to pick up medication for her grandmother. Witnesses reported seeing her running along I-490, half-dressed, screaming for help. She ran in the direction of oncoming traffic, and it's unclear why. There was a car on the shoulder, driving in reverse, chasing her. One driver was so perturbed by the scene that he turned to his passenger in a total state of disbelief and asked if she thought he should turn around. Easier said than done, perhaps, in rush hour traffic. I mean, he'd have to exit the freeway and then re-enter in the opposite direction. But why was he apparently the only one who was concerned? Maybe it's the bystander effect. Someone else is going to take care of it, or will take care of it, or has taken care of it, or maybe has already called the police. But this was 1971. It was before cell phones. No one stopped. And according to the author Michael Benson of Nightmare in Rochester, the scene bothered that first driver enough to where, when he got home, he told his wife about it. But that was it. He still didn't report it, and neither did his wife, and neither did any of the other drivers along that freeway who surely saw the same thing. I mean, what would you have done if you saw Carmen running down the expressway? Would you have turned around? Would you have called the police? Would you have just driven home and left it to somebody else to take care of? And what about seeing that car driving in reverse? So because nobody reported it, When the Rochester Police Department got the call from the girl's family hours later reporting their child missing, they hadn't even begun to follow up on leads. They didn't even know that there had been sightings of this 10-year-old child screaming and running for help down the expressway. Carmen lived with her grandparents, though both of her parents were still in her life. Her mom had been a teenager when she'd had Carmen, and Carmen's father was married to Carmen's mother's sister, who was twice her age. Okay, think about that. Do the math. Can we all say statutory rape by the brother-in-law? Carmen, who often ran errands for her grandmother, was also always supervised by her grandfather, except, of course, on this day, the day that she's abducted in broad daylight. In fact, by the time Carmen is reported missing, panic has set in. Police start with the pharmacy. They question the owner. He says he told Carmen it would take a few minutes to fill the prescription, so she should return in a half hour. Of course, she never did. And 2 days later, her body was found by two teenagers in a nearby town called Riga, 12 miles away. The autopsy confirmed that she was sexually assaulted and strangled. Finally, witnesses from the expressway start coming forward with information. It took a newspaper report and information that this girl
The town was called Chalai, not Riga. The name was changed a long time ago. Chalai Riga or something like that.
had died, had been murdered, for people to start coming forward. I mean, think about that. A little bit too late.
This is the story about the alphabet murders that took place back in the 70s in Rochester, New York. Well, in Monroe County. All these girls, I think, were abducted from Rochester. But if you notice in this news article, Carmen Colon, her body was found in Churchville, Chalai, or Churchville, let's just call it. Michelle Manza, her body was found in Macedon. Wanda Walkowitz, her body was found in Webster. Obviously, their first initial and last initial match, and the towns that their bodies were dumped in, the first letter matches also.
Investigators received varying, vague descriptions of the car that witnesses saw backing up along the shoulder. And it seemed that the girl's killer taunted police by leaving a message on the door of a public restroom in a local department store. And it said, "I killed a 10-year-old girl. Who will be next?" Police, of course, dusted for prints but came up empty, and it was 1971, so there were no security cameras. They set up a tip line for information, and soon, Carmen's frozen green pants, because remember, she was half-dressed running down the expressway, the green pants that she had clutched in her hand while running down the freeway are found within a few hundred feet of where she was last seen. A few months later, a witness tells police that he suspects Carmen's mom's boyfriend, Miguel Colon. Apparently, Miguel had said something cryptic in the days following Carmen's death. Okay, I want you to think about this. This is a few months later. Okay,
all right,
somebody
Ed,
comes forward.
I got
But
you.
this is
I'm here
what
for a bit.
Miguel Colon says in the days following Carmen's death. Quote, "Needed to skip town quickly because they'd done something wrong in Rochester. I mean, a few months later, and he doesn't just skip town, he moves to Puerto Rico. According to Sherry Farnsworth in her book Alphabet Killer,
Benito, good
authorities
morning.
detail
Salute,
Miguel's
brother.
murder, hoping to lure Miguel out of hiding. It worked because Miguel does turn himself in. He also insists on taking a lie detector test. When police search his car, which, by the way, looks a lot like the witness's description, they find a doll of Carmen's. I mean,
Hi, baby.
well,
Good
that's
morning.
kind of a creepy fact. It's possible that Carmen's doll would be in his car because he is, after all, her uncle, and they probably would have had a lot of contact. So, in the end, police really don't have enough to arrest him. But by March of 1973, which is 16 months later, police get another interesting lead. They get a call from authorities in California who say that they've arrested a man on a similar case, and in the man's wallet was a newspaper clipping about Carmen's case. Creepy, actually a lot creepy that he'd be carrying around a newspaper clipping of Carmen's death, but the case goes somewhat cold for 17 months.
I know, it's really early.
Then came Wanda Walkowicz. April 1973, another 11-year-old, a redhead, another red coat. Are we seeing a pattern here? Another abduction in broad daylight. Like Carmen, Wanda too is running errands for her mom.
This is
She'd
the
gone to a neighbor deli to buy
Alphabet
groceries for
murders
her dinner, and
from
witnesses said that they saw
1971
her
in
struggle a
Rochester,
bit
New York.
to carry the groceries. They were too heavy and awkward. That's when they saw a brown car pull up alongside her. Wanda's body was then found the next day, posed and dumped in Webster, New York. Though police find similarities between Wanda and Carmen's murders, they also find differences. For example, Wanda was fully clothed, and she was strangled with some kind of ligature. And here's another strange detail. Autopsy reports revealed that Wanda had custard or ice cream in her stomach, which suggested perhaps that she was fed by the killer. Once again, tips come in, and one in particular catches law enforcement's attention. One caller claims to have seen a man forcing a red-haired girl into a light-colored Dodge Dart at knife point the evening that Wanda disappeared. For the most part, the tips are dismissed. Possible suspects have alibis or pass lie detector tests, or there are just too many similar car descriptions to really nail it down.
Yeah, it is a sad
But
story.
7 months later, and just over 2 years since Carmen's murder, Michelle Menza is murdered. November 1973. She never made it home from school. Her frantic mother reported that she always walked both of her daughters
can you
home and
hear
had
me
planned to
okay?
do so again on this day, but Michelle had been detained due to a situation in her school. Apparently, Michelle had been bullied by another child, and the school decided to detain both of them. I guess it was a thing back then where both kids were punished. Because she was detained and her mother wasn't able to walk her home, her body
All
was
right, thank you,
discovered
honey.
in Macedon, 15 miles away. She too had been assaulted and strangled, and she, like Wanda, had been fully clothed and fed. Autopsy reports revealed that she had the remnants of an undigested cheeseburger in her stomach. Authorities suspected that she, too, had likely been fed by her killer. As if that isn't macabre enough. So here we have the same age, same staging, same profile,
Welcome
3
back,
victims,
Ed.
each with the same first and last initial. CC, WW, MM, each dumped in a town matching those initials. The alphabet pattern is a part of the killer's psychological signature. It suggests an offender who is acting out of a deeply entrenched fantasy, possibly rooted in early trauma, rejection, or internal chaos. Carmen's was likely the killer's first, because it didn't go so well. So maybe the killer's method, the abduction, rape, and murder, had to be reorganized. Or maybe the killer knew Carmen and didn't need a ruse. The abductions were quick, clean, in broad daylight, and involved transporting the victims, implying planning and familiarity with the area. The crimes were spaced out over 2 years, which could indicate a cooling off period or disorganized impulses. All the victims were abducted from Rochester neighborhoods and dumped nearby, which means that the killer probably lived or worked locally. Maybe he blended into his environment. He clearly had a car, possibly moved for the third murder, indicating maybe he was becoming more confident in what he was doing or needed a change in his living situation. And then there's the stripping and the posing of the bodies, which signaled maybe more than sexual assault, right? This was premeditated. It reflected sort of ritualistic sadism and a fantasy script that the killer may have rehearsed long before he acted. Then you have the long gaps between
Yeah, right,
killings,
babe.
which
You did buy
suggests
me the
a
first
double
line.
life, perhaps, a job, a relationship, even a public-facing role. I mean, it's no secret that many serial killers compartmentalize effectively, right? They can function, quote unquote, normally in society. They sometimes hold jobs, have families, work in positions of trust. And then just like that, the killings stopped. No more bodies, no more patterns, no confessions, just a name, the alphabet killer, and a silence that lasted 50 years. He could have relocated, he could have died, he could have been incarcerated after the third murder. Nobody knows.
Yeah, the boom style is cool.
There were semen samples
Because
gathered
you can
from all
move it
three
around.
girls that revealed that the killer had a blood characteristic found in only 20% of people. The other odd fact was that all three girls had the hairs of a white cat or a light-colored cat on their clothing when they were found. Police were flooded with tips, thousands of them, but only one would crack the case, and it came from a little girl. The little girl knew Michelle. The day Michelle vanished, the girl saw something so terrifying that she ran home, crawled into her mother's closet, and confessed what she'd witnessed. She'd been standing on a street corner near a shopping plaza when a light-colored car came barreling toward her. Behind the wheel was a man who scared her. In the back seat through the window, she caught a glimpse of her friend
Oh, no,
Michelle,
that's fine.
crying, panicked, as the car
I'm
sped
fine
away.
with it. Talk about anything.
Here's the crazy thing. The little girl's mother didn't call the police for 4 days. Then another tip surfaced. A man claimed he'd stopped to help a driver who appeared to be having car trouble. But when he approached, the motorist grew aggressive, told him to get lost, and deliberately blocked his view of a young girl inside the vehicle. The man later gave a description to a sketch artist. He described his encounter as a man over 6 feet tall, about 170 pounds, dark curly hair, unshaven, dirty, with long fingernails. When the sketch artist published this in the news, a security guard at the Rochester newspaper came forward. He'd had a strange encounter, too. A nervous man had approached him, asking if there were any updates on Michelle Menza. He stuttered over her name and then abruptly walked off.
He's
The
home now,
guard,
babe.
Gilbert, tried to follow, but the man jumped into a light brown Ford Pinto and sped away. The next day, another witness came forward, a woman with a haunting memory. She recalled pulling into a fast food parking lot and noticing a beige car parked beside her. In the passenger seat sat a little girl who looked strikingly like Michelle. But at the time, Michelle
Good for
hadn't yet
you,
been
Ed.
reported missing. Moments later, the woman saw a disheveled man emerge from the restaurant carrying a bag of food and a drink. He climbed into the driver's seat, handed both items to the girl, and drove off. Chilled by the memory, the woman provided a detailed description, enough for a full-body sketch. And when police questioned employees at the restaurant, one worker remembered the man clearly, especially his long, grimy fingernails. It's always amazing to me how criminals will have some striking features, either a tattoo or a piece of clothing that they always wear, or bare feet, or as in this case, grimy fingernails, something that is clearly going to make them identifiable. Then something unexpected happens. The Good Samaritan, the man who tried to help the motorist, calls police again, and he says, "You won't believe this, but I just saw the guy again, and this time I got his license plate."
Oh, wow.
Again, it's kind of crazy. This criminal has left so many breadcrumbs. It's almost like he's not afraid of being caught. Police traced the plate to a man in his 20s, unemployed, recently divorced, with a criminal record but nothing involving sex crimes. Still, the lead is strong. This tip came from one of the few eyewitnesses who actually interacted with the suspect. And when questioned, the man insisted he had nothing to do with the killings. For Michelle, he claimed an alibi, and he passed a polygraph. It was enough for police to let him go. But here's the thing. Polygraphs are not only inadmissible in court, they are completely irrelevant if the person is a psychopath. They often pass them with ease. More suspects are questioned. Several bear a striking resemblance to the composite sketch. One by one, each is ruled out. Then a new name surfaces, a man who fits the profile, but there's a problem. By the time police hear of him, he's already dead. The man was Dennis Termini, a 25-year-old firefighter with a dark past. He had a known pattern, targeting teenage girls and adult women. His attacks spanned from 1971 to 1974, ending abruptly on New Year's Day when he died by suicide just as police were closing in. But even after his death, the investigation didn't stop. That's when detectives working the Alphabet murders were alerted. At first glance, Termini didn't seem like a perfect fit. The victim profile didn't quite align. But then the details started to surface, subtle, chilling overlaps. One witness had described a light-colored car with a distinctive dent. Termini's car matched that description exactly. And then there was his job, a firefighter. It might explain the question that had baffled investigators from the start. How did the killer manage to lure young girls into his car in broad daylight without raising suspicion? One theory, the girls knew him, but police had scoured their lives and found no connections, no shared schools, neighborhoods, or activities. So maybe it wasn't familiarity. Maybe it was trust, the kind of trust a uniform can buy. Maybe the person who lured the girls into his car was someone who made them feel safe. Someone in uniform. Dennis Termini kept his firefighter uniform in his vehicle. But there was more. He was a cat owner, and investigators found cat hairs in his car. They also discovered human hair, hair that was consistent with Michelle's. Michelle and Wanda were conned Carmen was brutally beaten, skull fracture. The other two were fed and Carmen escaped. Maybe the MO was evolving. Maybe the killer was so enraged by Carmen's escape that he had to kill her quickly. By the way, Dennis Termini, a Rochester firefighter arrested for a series of rapes and abductions, used his vehicle. DNA later ruled him out, but only after decades. Police chased countless leads, among them Kenneth Bianchi, the hillside strangler, who once lived in Rochester. He toyed with investigators but never confessed. His link remains speculative. He transported his victims, posed them, but he killed adults. So, there was also the Zodiac killer, who communicated obsessively with police, but he didn't focus on children. He engaged in a pattern of behavior, and there was a connection between his locations. West Mesa bone collector, same disappearance pattern, dump site ritual, but his victims were sex workers and not children. Other leads included sex offenders, school janitors, even family friends, but no arrest was ever made. When a killer is never found, the story becomes about everyone. Suspicion spreads like a virus. Families fracture, police lose trust, and in cases like this, where the victims are young girls, there's a second violence: silence. These girls were failed by society twice. Once by their killer, and again by a justice system that couldn't protect them. Then, in September of 1974, the Democrat and Chronicle present an angle that will come to define the case: the fact that all three girls have the same letter for their first and last names, and this is where the killings start being referenced to as either double initial murders and then later the alphabet murders. Carmen is the outlier. She's found in Riga, but it's close to two other towns, Chile and Churchville. The Churchville exit was literally the next exit on the expressway where all the motorists saw Carmen running. So maybe her killer doesn't have time to take her to Churchville because she escapes. This begs the question that if he targeted girls whose first and last names matched, he had to have known them beforehand, right? But the crimes feel like crimes of opportunity. The girls don't go to the same school. They don't have the same social worker. It seems impossible that the alliteration could be a coincidence. I mean, what do you think? The odds of three separate random victims each having double initials is 0. And that's before factoring in that all three victims are found in a town with the same initial as well. I mean, the official stance is that the initials were just a coincidence, but I don't buy it. But before I leave this point, this was 1974, before the golden age of serial killers. So isn't it strange that so many of the giants live in the same area, like composers or artists who all lived at the same time competing with one another?
Oh, really, babe? I didn't know
it wasn't
that.
Just Rochester. I mean, just a few hours south, another predator was stalking young girls during the exact same time. In Washington State, from 1971 to 1972, a serial killer, later dubbed the Freeway Phantom, abducted, raped, and murdered at least 6 black girls, ages 10 to 18. Like the alphabet killer, he left his victims near highways. And like the alphabet killer, he left no fingerprints, no solid suspects, just trauma and silence. One girl was even forced to write a note found in her coat pocket, taunting police. It said, "I will admit the others when you catch me if you can, Freeway Phantom." The cases were never solved. There were different cities, different demographics, but disturbingly similar patterns, unsolved for 50 years or more, despite modern technology. They were ignored by mainstream media at the time, possibly due to the victim's race and socioeconomic status. But like the alphabet murders, the Freeway Phantom displayed organization, escalation, and eerie clues that he left behind. Another really weird case is Mary Bell. It is the most shocking in British criminal history, not because of the brutality of the crimes, but because of who committed them. In Mary Bell's case, like the alphabet killer's case, the victims were young. They were children. They were lured and murdered. In the alphabet killer's case, they were also assaulted and abducted. In Mary Bell's case, the killings had an eerie signature, like the letter M had been carved into the victims. And of course, in the Alphabet Killer's case, it was the alliterative initials on the matching dump sites. They formed a signature. The victims were targeted in public places. They were abducted in broad daylight. Police and public missed warning signs. Law enforcement missed key opportunities. The community was shocked that such evil came from someone so close. The Alphabet Killer may have been someone trusted or familiar. But the thing that was so startling in Mary Bell's case was that she herself was a child. So she was a child serial killer.
Oh
And of
my
course, the
God.
Alphabet Killer was presumed to have been an adult male with organized predatory behavior and possibly psychopathy. But the fact that there were so many similar cases around the same time period is really pretty bizarre and pretty disturbing. Then in 1979, we get a break.
A
At least it
child.
seemed like
A
that.
child killing.
A
A
man
child
named
serial
Kenneth
killer.
Bianchi was arrested in Washington state for the strangulation murders of 2 women. The name struck a nerve. Bianchi was from Rochester. He had lived there in the early 1970s, the exact time the Alphabet murders occurred. He had worked in private security, bingo, even serving as a guard for the New York Times. And before that, he had aspired to be a police officer. Instead, he became a killer. Bianchi had once been ruled out, but now, with his arrest, he was back on the investigators' radar. And the reason he was ruled out was because at the time, people thought that Dennis Termini had done it. He'd been their prime suspect until serology tests cast doubt on the connection. But with Bianchi back in the frame, investigators collected his wrist prints, and they compared them to the faint marks found on Michelle's neck. There was no match. That's bizarre in itself. Come on, a wrist print? But he was ruled out again, and just like that, the trail went cold. By the 1990s, DNA had become a powerful tool, and investigators had a viable sample from Wanda's case, so both Kenneth Bianchi and Dennis Termini were tested. Both were ruled out. But just as police began to lose hope, a chilling discovery in a Reno basement would reignite the case. In Reno, Nevada, police arrested suspected serial killer Joseph Nasso. During a search of his home, they uncovered hundreds of photos, women bound in disturbing, unnatural poses. But what truly caught investigators' attention was a handwritten note titled List of 10. It referenced various dump sites where bodies had been found, and none of the victims were children, but the names, Roxanne Rogash, Pamela Parsons, Tracy Tafoya, Carmen Colon. And if you can believe this, it was another Carmen Colon.
They're not wired right at all.
To the one in the Alphabet Killer's case. And Joseph Nasso had once lived in Rochester during the early 1970s, the exact time of the Alphabet murders. So according to biographer C.L. Sweeney, Nasso was in town at the time of each abduction, so it felt like more than a coincidence now. But when his DNA was tested against the one sample from Wanda's case, it wasn't a match. And then there was this strange pattern investigators kept circling back to. 3 girls. C is the 3rd letter in the alphabet. M for Michelle is the 13th letter. W for Wanda is the 23rd letter. It's a sequence, a signature. Or is it just a chilling coincidence? The Alphabet murders are not just about a killer who vanished. They're about the systems that failed to connect the dots and the voices that were silenced
I was 7 years old when this
now.
was going on.
We have Carmen Colon, Churchville, Wanda Walkowitz, Webster, Michelle Manza, Macedon. So why bring this case back into the spotlight? Why do we care? Because someone somewhere still knows something. Because new DNA technology could finally reveal the truth. Because we now understand more about the behavioral patterns of serial predators. And because Carmen, Wanda, and Michelle deserve more than to be remembered only by the pattern of their names. In every unsolved case, there is unfinished grief, but also opportunity to question what we missed, who we overlooked, and how we listen. I don't believe in coincidences. Today, we know so much more about serial killers. The Alphabet Killer didn't just find victims, he curated them. He stalked neighborhoods he knew well. He watched girls who fit a visual and symbolic profile. He likely approached more children than he harmed, but only acted when the initials, location, and opportunity lined up. It wasn't just murder. It was performance, fantasy made real. And for him, that fantasy needed to be perfect.
That's insane. It's a sad story. You know, those poor little girls.
Women began refusing to take on new clients. What they didn't realize, however, was that the man they were trying to avoid wasn't a stranger at all. He didn't stand out in the environment. He was a familiar face, well known throughout the area. What makes this story even more disturbing is not only the sheer brutality of the crimes, but also the fact that all of them could have been prevented. This man should never have been free in the first place, given the violent acts he had already committed. And when the first body appeared along the banks of the Genesee River, no one could have imagined.
Babe, are you talking about the Alphabet Killer? No, they never caught him. They never caught him. I mean, they had speculation that it was this guy, this guy, this guy. But the Alphabet Killer, they never, you know, had concrete evidence to say, oh, it was, you know, Joe Smith or whatever. You know, they never caught him. They always had suspects and, you know, but that one firefighter, I mean, with the cat in the car, the uniform, he had so many cases against him, against women and, you know, assaults and all that. They were geared, you know, towards him as he was the one. And I think he killed himself in his house or something.
That Rochester was about to face one of the darkest chapters in its history. The first victim identified was Dorothy Blackburn, 27 years old. She worked as a sex worker in the city's red light district and was the mother of 3 children. She was last seen on March 18, 1988. Her body surfaced near the riverbank, showing unmistakable signs of strangulation.
This is the
next victim, Anna Marie Steffen, was found further downstream. By the time investigators located her, decomposition had already set in. Once again, investigators found signs of strangulation. After the second victim, the attack seemed to stop for nearly a year, or at least no confirmed victims were reported during that time. It wasn't until July 1989 that the third body surfaced. This time, the victim was Dorothy Keller, 59 years old, a homeless woman who had been forced into sex work. Her remains were found in September, near Highland, along the Genesee River. The advanced decomposition in the natural environment made it difficult for investigators not only to identify her, but also to determine...
See, baby, this is the story of Arthur Shawcross, right? Now, if you go back years before he started doing this, he killed 2 kids in a town, I think above Syracuse, like Waterloo or something like that, and did something like 27 years and got out, you know, with good behavior or whatever. He shouldn't have got out at all. It's insane.
In the exact cause and time of death. On October 27, 1989, police discovered the body of 25-year-old Patricia Ives. She had been strangled as well. By then, the growing number of bodies had alarmed investigators, who were already considering the possibility that they were dealing with a serial killer. And just 4 weeks later, things would take an even darker turn. The next victim was June Stotts, 30 years old. Unlike the others, she was not a sex worker. June had an intellectual disability with the mind of a much younger child. She was found lifeless, lying face down on a narrow dirt road near the riverbank. When investigators turned her body over, they recoiled in shock. A large cut stretched from her neck all the way down to her lower body. Her organs had been disturbed, and some were missing altogether. By that point, investigators were convinced all the cases were connected to the same perpetrator. The level of violence was escalating rapidly, and investigators feared it was only a matter of time before the killings reached a new level of horror. In this attack, the killer had shifted his victim profile, targeting a woman who didn't work the streets. That change widened the circle of fear, making every woman in the area feel like a potential target. With no name to put to him, the media created several nicknames for the serial killer, the most well-known being the Genesee River Killer. The murder of June Stotts revealed a disturbing new pattern to police. Vulnerable women were being abducted, assaulted, and strangled. Their bodies were then dumped close to the riverbank, and in many cases, the killer would return to the scene days later. With the more recent victims, the bodies were also mutilated. Convinced they were dealing with a serial killer, local authorities called in the FBI for assistance. Unfortunately, most of the women working the streets still had to keep putting themselves at risk. Fearful, many began avoiding strangers and would only see regular clients. Even so, bodies kept surfacing in the Genesee River.
Ed, so can you imagine this killer right here, Arthur Shawcross, who killed I can't remember the number. I think it's like 9 or 12 prostitutes, right? And there's a street called Lyle Avenue, and that's where they frequent, and that's where he would pick them up. Now, there used to be a bakery called the Paulo's Bakery on Lyle Avenue where, you go in and get bread, donuts, or whatever, and then they had their little cafe set up. You could sit there, eat, order breakfast, whatever. This guy used to frequent that bakery every morning, and people, would be sitting right next to a serial killer and never knew it.
Each death occurring in shorter intervals and marked by increasing brutality. The FBI launched a large-scale operation in the area, divided into 2 main strategies. One team stopped and questioned dozens of men each night in search of suspects or leads. The other blended into the environment, setting traps for the killer. Female officers were stationed on street corners, while male officers watched from nearby, posing as pimps. It was a massive operation with significant risks. Not only physical danger for the women acting as bait, but also the possibility that word of the plan might reach the killer, which could have been disastrous. Then, something unusual happened. Sitting on a bench along Lyle Avenue was a man wearing polished black shoes, the kind often worn by police officers. One of the undercover agents mistook him for a fellow cop and sat down beside him, believing he was speaking with another member of the operation. During a casual conversation, the agent began sharing details and updates about the investigation. The man immediately played along, pretending to be an officer himself, and managed to extract even more information from the agent. That man sitting on the bench was the Genesee River Killer. This astonishing detail would only come to light years later. The undercover officer who had unintentionally compromised the operation eventually stood up and walked away. The killer simply laughed and left the area. The agent's designated meeting spot for exchanging information was a local King Donuts shop. It was there that they discussed suspects and vehicles worth monitoring. The killer himself also frequented this donut shop and even chatted with some of the officers, claiming he was worried about his girlfriend's safety.
That was on Monroe Avenue.
Him, it was nothing more than a game he believed he was winning. By then, he already knew exactly which women were undercover officers and which ones weren't, so he continued his attacks. The bodies kept appearing in the Genesee River until, on December 17, 1989, it was June Cicero's turn. She was 33 years old and one of the most well-known sex workers along Lyle Avenue. June had a strong personality and was often described as harsh, even cruel. People in the area respected her, most out of fear. That night, she got into a grey Chevrolet and vanished into the darkness. June was strangled to death, and her body was taken to Norton Park.
Dave, listen
The
carefully
killer
how they
opened the
catch
car
him.
door and pushed her body down the embankment into the water before driving away. A few days later, he returned to the scene to make sure the body was still hidden beneath the bridge. Because of the winter weather, the river had frozen, preserving June's remains. Before leaving, the killer began urinating off the bridge. Overhead, a police helicopter passed by. From the air, the officer spotted something unusual. As they drew closer, they realized it was a body. Standing over it was a man, next to an open car door. The man quickly shut the door, got behind the wheel and sped off. The whole scene struck the officer as highly suspicious, so he decided to follow the vehicle. Knowing that returning to crime scenes was common behavior for serial offenders, the officer immediately flagged the man as a likely suspect. Ground units were called in, and before long, patrol cars intercepted the grey Chevrolet. The man behind the wheel was Arthur Shawcross. When his name was entered into the system, it uncovered a bloody trail stretching back 20 years, long before women had started disappearing from Rochester's streets. Arthur John Shawcross was born on June 6, 1945, in Kittery, Maine. He grew up in Watertown, New York, about 100 miles from Rochester. In May 1982, 8-year-old Karen Ann Hill went missing, and the search began along the Black River. It was common to see children playing there, so at first, drowning was one of the possible explanations. Her body was found at the bottom of the river, weighed down with rocks. Her feet were protruding, the first thing officers noticed. Her torso was buried under the stones, and it was
You hear
clear
this,
she was
babe?
already dead. This wasn't an accident, it was homicide. Her mouth had been stuffed with mud and dirt, a deliberate act to silence
Hey,
her
Kyle,
screams.
good morning.
Search dogs followed the trail of her scent all the way to a house on Alexander Street. That's where the trail ended, and it was the home of Arthur Shawcross. At the time, he was 27 years old and living with his third wife, Rose Marie Wally. After 3 days of intense questioning, Shawcross gave a partial confession to killing Karen Ann Hill. However, he refused to discuss his time in Washington, where authorities suspected him of being involved in the deaths of several children in the 1970s, the darkest chapter of his past. Just months before Karen's murder, 10-year-old Jack Blake had disappeared in Watertown. Arthur had been seen fishing with the boy on several occasions. Police suspected Shawcross but lacked the evidence to charge him. In an effort to solve Jack's disappearance, investigators offered Shawcross a deal. If he revealed what happened to Jack Blake, he would face a lighter charge for Karen's death. Shawcross agreed and led officers to Jack's body, which was found near railroad tracks outside of town. The body was unclothed, and the autopsy confirmed strangulation as the cause of death. Because of this deal, Shawcross was never prosecuted for Jack Blake's murder. Instead, he was convicted of manslaughter in Karen Ann Hill's case. He received the maximum sentence available for that charge at the time, 25 years in prison. Had he been properly charged with second-degree murder, he would have faced life in prison, and at least 11 more women might have been spared. But that didn't happen. The deal had been made so that Jack's body could be recovered, bringing some closure to his family. Still, the community was outraged. To them, the deal was unthinkable, proof that the system had failed, and that more blood would inevitably be spilled. It was clear that Arthur had intended to kill Karen, and allowing him to avoid an additional murder charge by leading police to another child's body was beyond unacceptable. Some individuals are beyond rehabilitation, proving it every chance they get. And Shawcross would go on to prove it again and again, with 11 more victims. Arthur Shawcross served 15 years behind bars before earning parole in April 1987. This was the background investigators uncovered when he was arrested a second time, now officially identified as a serial killer. The justice system owed a debt to society, and detectives were determined to make sure Shawcross would never walk free again. During interrogation, investigators laid out photographs of the missing sex workers. Shawcross began sorting through them, forming a pile of the ones he admitted were his victims. He confessed to being the killer and described how he murdered each woman and what he did with their bodies. Like many serial predators, Shawcross had managed to blend into society and maintain the appearance of a normal life. He worked the night shift at a frozen food factory and spent his free time fishing in the Genesee River. On the surface, these activities seemed harmless, if not for the grim reality behind them. His nighttime routine gave him access to vulnerable women, and the river provided the perfect place to dispose of their bodies. But his double life didn't end there. Shawcross also maintained an affair with a woman named Clara Neal, a sex worker from Lyell Avenue. He was a familiar face in the neighborhood, sometimes visiting his mistress, other times scouting for his next victim. For a period of time, one of his victims, Dorothy Keller, had even worked for Shawcross as a housekeeper. He paid her about $4.25 an hour to clean his home and handle small chores. Dorothy also stayed at his house temporarily, using it as a place to sleep. Shawcross later claimed she began stealing from him, a claim that was never verified. Not long after, Dorothy disappeared. Days later, her body was found in the waters of the Genesee. Shawcross later returned to the site where Dorothy's body had been dumped. On that visit, he decapitated her and tossed the head into the river. During interrogation, he claimed he did this to further conceal her remains. Regarding the death of June Stotts, the 30-year-old woman with intellectual disabilities, Shawcross admitted he had spent the day with her near the river. They fed ducks and engaged in intimate acts outdoors. At some point, according to him, June began screaming and threatened to call the police. Enraged, Shawcross snapped her neck. He later claimed he couldn't explain why he cut open her body. After confessing in detail to 11 murders, it was clear to investigators that Arthur Shawcross would never be released back into society. The only question that remained was what had driven him. Shawcross claimed he had suffered abuse as a child, and his defense leaned heavily on this story in an attempt to pursue an insanity plea. In the end, the only source of these claims was Shawcross himself, and whether the abuse ever occurred will never be known. Psychiatrist Dr. Dorothy Otnow Lewis testified that Shawcross didn't necessarily approach women intending to kill them. Instead, something they said or did would allegedly trigger sudden outbursts. He described these episodes as seeing bright lights before blacking out, only to later find himself next to a lifeless body. Still, these claims raised more questions than answers, and they didn't line up with Shawcross's own words. In interviews, he provided detailed accounts of his crimes, recalling them with clarity, showing no remorse, and carefully choosing which details to reveal. The evidence suggested Shawcross was fully capable of controlling his impulses. He had countless opportunities to stop, but chose not to. Arthur John Shawcross was found guilty of 11 murders. He was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 250 years behind bars before becoming eligible for parole. He was transferred to the Sullivan Correctional Facility, a maximum security prison located near Fallsburg, New York. While incarcerated, Arthur gave different explanations to justify his crimes. In one version, he claimed he believed he had contracted HIV from one of the women, and since he didn't know which one was responsible, he decided to kill them all. He even alleged that he consumed part of one victim's body in an attempt to hasten his own death, as if the disease would somehow accumulate. Arthur never had HIV, and this account was almost certainly a lie. It was just another one of his fabrications, like many of his excuses, always designed to minimize his responsibility for the deaths of the women he targeted. He couldn't use the same excuses when it came to the children, and that is why he refused to talk about what happened in Washington. On the 10th of November 2008, Arthur began complaining of severe pain in his legs and was taken to Albany Medical Center in New York. Later that afternoon, he suffered cardiac arrest and was pronounced dead at 9:50 p.m. at the age of 63. Arthur Shawcross was a cruel killer defined by his brutality and coldness. No suffering from his childhood, whether real or invented, could ever excuse the horrors he committed or the innocent lives he destroyed, especially those of children. He hid behind the facade of an ordinary man, an apparently harmless neighbor, while leaving behind a trail of violence and death. His death behind bars did not bring back the victims or erase the grief of the families, but it did ensure that no more lives would ever be taken by his hands. If this story stayed with you, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and letting us know in the comments which forgotten victims or overlooked cases deserve to be told next.
Hell. And here we are driving on the east side of the city in Rochester. Yeah, we had our share out of crazy people. This guy, or I always say this guy, this person's going over the Paul Shalom Bridge. from the east side heading towards the west side, which is headed towards Lyle Avenue, where Arthur Shawcross picked up all these ladies. These women. Just heading a tour. Yep, follow that white truck. And there's Lyle Avenue right there. Let me see if I can do this. Hang on. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Right there. Now, you see on the left that red awning with the white building? It's closed now, but they still do baking in the back. That used to be DePaulo's Bakery. And that's where that guy, Arthur Shawcross, used to hang out in the morning. And this is the Lyle Avenue strip where all the hookers used to hang out. Oh, wow. You're going to see Tent City, which is no longer there, which got burned down. You know, I just got to stop this when I get to Tent City. You know what's crazy about Tent City, Ed? If you look to the right there, that huge red building, right there with the awning and the double doors, right there, that building is completely gone. It was engulfed with a, what do you call that? 5-alarm fire. They were going to take this big red building and make it into apartments and everything. I can't remember when it was built. We used to go shopping there as kids, you know, for clothes and stuff like that. They were big in the sporting good industry and tents back in the day. That's why they called it Tent City. The crazy thing is they got something like $30 million from the state to renovate it. And then, boom, all of a sudden there's this huge fire. And, of course, I got a theory. When they went in there and looked at that building, the engineers, they were like, 30 million? We need more like 60 million. So, God help me, somebody burned it down and said, oh, we'll just build from scratch. They're still going to build something there for, you know, apartment wise or something like that. But it's just crazy how all of a sudden the building burnt down. All right. Right. Because it sat there for what? 30 years? And there was no fire, no break-ins for the copper plumbing or nothing. But then once, you know, the state takes over and, oh, yeah, we'll give the developers, you know, X amount of dollars and tax exempts and this, that, the other. And what's the other one called? Damn, I forgot that other exempt, where they don't charge you taxes for like 5 or 10 years or whatever deal you make with them. Comida? Yeah, I think it's called Comida. And yeah, but boom, I mean, it sat there for just a dead building, not even a zombie building, not even a broken window. And then all of a sudden there's, you know, mysteriously there's a fire. He's making a left on Broad Street, West Broad Street. Alright, babe, I'm gonna see if I can find some Philly, videos. Let me stop. Hold on. There's our soccer stadium right there. What do you call it? AAA Soccer Stadium? The Rochester Rhinos. Ed, you see this neighborhood right here? Rough neighborhood to live in. Really rough neighborhood to live in. He's headed towards downtown. Let me see if he makes a left or right or something. I hear his signal. Oh, he's gonna make a right on J Street. Five blocks down on the right, Ed, I used to have a grocery store, a deli. Back in 1999 to 2002. Me and my brother-in-law had a deli slash grocery store. We used to cook food in there. He's making a right on Orchard. Yeah, 1 block up. That's where my store was. A left on Whitney? No, he's on Smith Street, yeah. Approaching Child. Making a right? No, he's making a left. Excuse me. That's funny, Ed. My baby said I have no love for Rochester. That's why we don't live in Rochester. Are we there yet? I think he's on Mount Reed. Yeah, he's on Mount Reed, approaching Lyle again. Yeah, definitely the west side is the part of the city where you don't want to be caught at night outside. You'll get robbed by your own cousin. He's approaching Dewey Avenue. If you can see on the left, that high school, two of my kids went there, Jefferson High School. But they graduated from other high schools. Marshall. Oh, and that's the end of that video.
Basically everywhere you walk in Philadelphia is historic. And so this set of buildings right here are the last remaining structures that were owned by Ben Franklin.
That's how his carriage would go in and out to his house through that gate, that archway there.
Oh wow, that's cool.
To let Ben Franklin inquire within.
Philadelphia really is a history lover's paradise, as everywhere you walk in the downtown part of the city, you'll see plaques that tell you about what happened right where you're standing. From there, we walked over to our first stop at the Liberty Bell, which is one of the most popular tourist attractions in the city, and we wanted to get there as early as possible to not have to wait in line to see it. A few facts about the Liberty Bell: it was commissioned in 1752, and it was originally hung in the steeple of the Pennsylvania State House, which is now known as Independence Hall. It's an iconic symbol of American freedom, and it's believed that it was rang during the first reading of the Declaration of Independence. There's many different stories about the large crack, but I asked when I was there, and they said most likely it was just from 90 years of use in the Pennsylvania State House.
So when I was a kid, the Liberty Bell used to be in Independence Hall, and there was like nothing around it. You'd go up and touch it and try to ring it with your fist or something.
There's also a small museum here with many different exhibits that talk about the freedoms that we fought for over the years as Americans.
I've heard it can take hours to see the Liberty Bell in the summer, but we came right when it opened and it only took us 2 minutes to see it.
From there, we headed across the street to Independence Hall. Since we were there early in the morning, you were able to walk in and explore a few of the buildings self-guided. However, if you want to see the main Independence Hall, then you have to get a ticket online, and this is the only way to get inside of Independence Hall.
Oh wow.
I dropped the ball on this one, but shout out to Pops who got us tickets to explore here. When we were there, you could explore one of the side buildings of Independence Hall, which talked about the Declaration of Independence and a few other items, and you could go over to the Congress Hall and walk around in there. The Congress Hall was definitely the best part, as this was the meeting place for the US Congress from 1790 to 1800.
That's cool,
You
babe.
could walk all around the main floor, and then you could go up the stairs to see some of the committee rooms and other things that they'd recreated. There are a few docents here to answer questions, and it was just cool to be in such a historic spot. We explored for a while before it was time for a 30-minute tour to start.
We're waiting in line to go inside of Independence Hall.
I'm not going to go over all the amazing and detailed history that you can experience in these walls, but I will say that this is one of the coolest places I've explored in a long time, especially for history buffs. Our guide was fantastic, and he made the stories come to life as he talked to us in the 2 different rooms on the tour. Being able to stand in this building that was built in the 1700s and was where the Declaration of Independence was adopted and the US Constitution was drafted is just something that you have to experience for yourself. Once the tour is over, be sure to go around to the front of Independence Hall. Here you can see plaques that talk about where different presidents stood to give speeches, and you can see a statue in the front. One of the coolest plaques you'll see here is one that says the birthplace of the United States of America.
Really unique history. This is the way it looked in 1950s, and then they basically cleared it all out to what it looks like now. That is an amazing tour, something you definitely should do when you're in the city. You can get reservations online. I will leave a link to that in the description. What do you think, Pops?
Yeah, it's such an incredible piece of American history. And as they said inside, that one room is probably the most important room in America, where everything happened. The Constitution, Declaration of Independence, incredible.
Let's head on to some museums.
On the short walk over to Carpenter's Hall, you can see the Second Bank of the United States and the Philadelphia Bank. Then if you arrive at Carpenter's Hall when it's open, you can go inside and you can explore the meeting place of the
Mitzi's
First
on
Continental
Edward's
Congress in
keyboard.
1774. It's actually a lot
thought
smaller
it
than you'd
was like,
anticipate, but it has some
are
good
we
exhibits
there
here
yet,
and it has
Mitzi?
docents who can answer
Now I
questions.
get it. That's probably on the
This building
garage
that they're
already,
renovating behind
looking
us
on the
is the
door.
First Bank of the United States.
It's wild to see so many historic places right next to each other, and our next stop was at the Museum of the American Revolution. The Museum of the American Revolution opened in 2017. You can tell it's a newer museum because of the digital interactive exhibits they have all throughout it. It's easily one of the most visually engaging museums I've ever seen to learn about history. All throughout, they have interactive exhibits, and they even have places where you can sit and watch a movie that feel like you're part of one of the integral battles. The museum is completely dedicated to telling the story of the American Revolution, and I wish I would have had a couple more hours to explore here.
He grabbed the keyboard. Give me
Also
that.
note that this is just one of the amazing
Start
museums you can
making
see in the
breakfast,
city.
damn it.
Hey, we saw that place earlier.
Yeah,
Independence Hall.
those guys weren't there though.
What'd you think of the museum?
It's a great museum. I love all the artifacts. It kind of walks you historically through everything, so you get a feel for how things developed and everything. Yeah, I thought it was really well done.
If you're interested in the American Revolution, it's definitely the best museum probably on that you can find.
We had 2 more spots to visit in the Old City before exploring some of the more modern parts of Philadelphia, and the first was Betsy Ross House. This historic landmark in Philadelphia is supposed to be where upholsterer and flag maker Betsy Ross lived when she sewed the first American flag. Whether or not she lived here while creating the flag is still debated by historians, but regardless, it's a beautiful piece of history that's well worth walking through and learning more about while you're in the city.
That is a tiny museum, but it was a lot of fun to learn more about the woman who supposedly created the American flag.
It was also really interesting that the grandson, I think it was just giving a talk somewhere and sharing that story about his grandmother making the flag, and it was like, whoa, nobody knew that, and that's what kind of started the ball rolling. We are in Elfreth's
Yeah,
Alley,
honey, there's
and
a
you can
ton of
actually buy a
history
home
there.
that has been continually occupied since the time of our allegiance to the king.
Guess how much this home is going for right now? I scanned the QR code. 1, 2, 3. Pops, how much is it going for?
1.6 million.
Should we all band together and
Oh,
buy it?
wow.
Elfreth's Alley is supposedly the nation's oldest continuously lived-in residential street, dating back to 1703.
1.6
Yes, people really do live here and
million.
have since 1713. 29 of the 32 homes are privately owned. This is an awesome street, so picturesque and historic. Definitely don't miss this when you're in Philadelphia.
I loved this spot, and I wish I would have been able to go in one of the old homes and see them for myself. There is a museum located on the street, but it was closed when we went, and I've been told that they put on some pretty amazing holiday celebrations as well. Regardless of all of that, you definitely have to come and just walk
Yo,
up and
these
down the
cats are
street and
running
take some
around like
pictures.
they're on
It's
crack,
beautiful
babe.
every way you look.
All right, now we're heading on to get something to eat.
For lunch, we headed over to Reading Terminal Market, a love spot in the city that's been here since 1893 when it was actually located underneath the train station. The train station was relocated in 1984, but it's still going strong with over 100 vendors and everything you could possibly imagine.
Over
to eat.
100 vendors.
And I have to say,
Hey,
if
you
you're
know
a
where this
foodie,
spot
then
is at?
Philadelphia is one of the best cities for you. There is so
Was that
much
a
good
bris?
food to eat here.
All right, this is called Tommy D. Nick's. It's the roast pork sandwich. It supposedly was the best
Austin, what's
sandwich
happening? Good morning.
in America in like 2014. So go for it, Pops. Let's try it.
Very good.
Hey, cut that out.
Not like a huge powerful flavor.
I would say this is a very good sandwich. I like that it has almost like a horseradish taste to it, and the meat inside is very good. I'm not gonna go best sandwich in America, but I'm also not disappointed. It's a good sandwich.
After sharing a sandwich, we decided we needed to go explore the market and find a few more things to try before we headed on.
I know,
Two of the
Boston.
foods
I
that
can't
Philadelphia is
produce
known for
videos
are
like
soft
this.
pretzels and Pennsylvania Dutch food.
The pretzels.
Finishing our tour of the market with Miller's pretzels and the famous apple dumpling from the Dutch place, or something like that.
That is really, really good.
Yo, he looks like
Perfect.
Reno, Boston.
Yeah, breading on the outside is amazing. Yeah, that's excellent.
The sign says this was
The
voted one of the
apple
best
dumpling.
desserts in Pennsylvania. No arguments. Incredible apple dumpling
Baby,
and
speaking
incredible
of that,
pretzels.
you need
Both
to
good
put
choices
that,
while you're in the
um,
market.
This is the money whooping pig. Ready
Apple
to sit
pie
down?
for dessert for dinner. Please.
Right into the bottom. Philly has been really fun so far. That was a great place to go get food. Lots of unique options, lots of good things to eat. And now we're going up somewhere really high. And by we, I mean I'm going, and Pops is going to sit at the coffee shop.
We should have went to some of the
On the way
hoagie
over to the
shops.
next stop, be sure to go to the statue known as the Bond, which is George Washington and Benjamin Franklin.
When I'm talking about the high thing, I'm going to go up. It's City Hall, which is right there. But we have a little bit of time to kill first, so we're going to go to the Love Park and then go up.
One of the most photographed places in Philadelphia is the Love Statue, which was installed in 1976. The statue is a permanent fixture in John F. Kennedy Plaza, which is also known as Love Park.
YouTube followers.
Oh, is that what
Pops
it's called,
loves
the
you.
City of Love?
So there it is, JFK Park, where the Love statue is. Now we're heading on to City Hall.
If you want to visit the top of City Hall, which you absolutely should, you need to get a ticket in advance, and when we went, it cost $16. The tower tour started from the City Hall Visitor Center, and it only lasts about 25 minutes. Alternatively, there is a longer City Hall tour that allows you to explore a lot more of the inside of the building if that's something you're interested in. The tour makes its way all the way up to the base of the City Hall Tower, and from there you actually have to get inside of an 100-year-old elevator that only 4 people can ride at a time. Even if I could have convinced Pops to get all the way to this part of the tour, there's no way he would have gotten the elevator, and I have to say, I was happy when the doors opened again as well. When we arrived, we were 548 feet up, right at the base of William Penn.
We've made it to the top. Excellent views up here. You can even see William Penn up there.
Oh, wow.
When you get to the top, the views are pretty great, and it's 360 degrees, so you can see in every direction. Because they limited the amount of people that could be up here at one time, it felt pretty spacious as you were walking around and taking in all of the different views. You could even see Love Park below you and the art museum where Rocky runs up the steps. More on that later. We had about 7 minutes to explore before having to head down.
So we were
That's a great
all the
view.
way up there. That was a really cool experience. If that's something you're interested in doing, be sure to get the tickets in advance as they go pretty quickly, and it's definitely worth doing while you're down here. Some great views up there and cool history. So it's like 95 degrees with 75% humidity. It is very, very hot today. So we're going to get a Philadelphia staple, water ice.
No, that's not right. That's not right. Yeah, and it's Italian too. It's Italian water ice is how you say it. Water.
Water ice.
Yeah, Boston, it's Philly.
Regardless of how
That's
you
where
say
my
it,
baby's
John's is supposed
from.
to be the best place to get it.
Damn, honey, no wonder you
Outstanding.
like water
Like the
ice.
lady said, you typically usually go lemon, but lemon and cherry are both good. But it's very good.
Don't put my thing down. She said lemon and cherry are both the most popular flavors.
What did I just say? Lemon and cherry.
She said I
Water.
only could go typically lemon. It's
Wood,
like I haven't been eating
water.
cold things my whole life. I gotta brain freeze them this far in. That is so good though, especially on a hot day like today. It's like very small granulars of ice and lots of good flavor. The lemon is good and tart too. Definitely a win.
You guys know us, the heat and humidity couldn't keep us down, and so we were off to our next stop.
This isn't Pop's choice, but we are going to the Eastern State Penitentiary right now.
Eastern State Penitentiary was built in 1829 and it was ran until 1971. The jail was infamous because it tried a separate incarceration tactic, which basically meant that all of the inmates were in a form of solitary confinement.
Water.
This is crazy to listen to the audio tour and to walk through some of these cells. Wow.
Hey, babies.
This is a place you
the
can
one where
easily
they
spend
made
a
the
few
movie.
hours, and they give you an audio tour that's actually
Um,
narrated by Steve Buscemi.
What was that movie with Jamie
The
Foxx?
prison was laid out
and
like
that
a
other
wagon wheel
actor?
with different spokes, and it could
Citizen
hold up to
something?
500 prisoners in isolation.
Yes.
At first, people thought that the isolation was a
seen the
great way to do
layout.
prison, and there was 300 prisons worldwide that were designed after this one. But in 1913, due to overcrowding and the impact it had on the people, they abandoned the isolation system.
Yeah, that building doesn't
This is
have
actually a
light
pretty
green
heavy
inside
place
of
to
it.
explore, especially hearing the different stories of the inmates that you can hear on the audio tour. And out in the back of the cell area, there's a big graph that shows how many people are incarcerated in the United States currently.
There's also a story about the governor's dog who killed his wife's favorite cat and was put in jail for life. His name was Pep.
He was a bad boy.
Of course, he didn't actually put him in prison. There was just a dog that was donated to be with the inmates. That's the update
Oh,
that
it
they
wasn't
put
the
on
one?
that. So it was just a good thing to help the inmates.
One of the last fascinating aspects of the prison is that it actually held Al Capone for some time. They showed what his cell supposedly looked like, and it definitely seemed like he had some ins with the guards.
Check it out. Pep the dog provides dog treats if you bring your dog.
I mean, a fascinating spot. Old, the idea of penitentiary was penitence, that the people who are in here would repent and live a better life, whether that was true or not. A lot of the things with
Man, that
silence
bonehead
and
made him
social
prison.
isolation, that just
Yeah,
wreaked
nice
havoc
room.
on people's minds. Probably good this place is closed.
Definitely take the time to do the audio tour though if you have it. It's so interesting to listen to. Here we are at our second to last stop. Pops is gonna run up the stairs in 100% humidity.
I know I've used the word iconic a lot in this video, but Philadelphia really is full of iconic spots, with the next one being the Rocky statue and the steps that he ran up in the movie.
Yo, Adrian.
I can't play that here, but if you've never seen it, search YouTube for Rocky running up the steps and you'll probably find it.
All right, we got our Rocky photos, which you can see here. Only one last thing to do, and that's to run up the stairs.
Wait,
All
did
right,
they
here we
take
go.
it from the museum and put it in the Comcast Stadium, or?
I have to say, one of the most fun
That's
things about this
versatile.
spot is just seeing all of the people enjoying running up and down the stairs. Where do you ever see that?
Well done, hot day.
Man, I need some oxygen after running up those
Oh, it's
stairs.
challenging on a hot, humid day like this. Rocky's footprints, epic views of the city.
Those are Converse sneakers.
I turned around and Pops is running. Here he is. He's almost made it to the top. Don't fall. Woo! Hold on, let me see some punches. There you go.
All right. Hey, he's
Well
having
done.
fun.
Rocky Balboa, aka Pops.
It's not as hard as I thought.
The art museum is also at the top of the stairs, but it is closed today, so we're heading on to cheesesteaks. This is a really fun spot just to see everybody
Right, Ed,
taking
a full
videos running up
tank
the
of
stairs.
oxygen
I love
waiting
it.
for me up there.
When you're a tourist in
EMT.
Philadelphia, there's
a whole
basically only
medical
one place you
team.
head for cheesesteaks.
Ah, here we go. The
All right,
cheesesteak.
cheesesteaks are an institution in Philadelphia, and one street corner has Geno's on one side and Pat's on the other.
Right.
They've been competing for decades.
My dad got in line at Pat's, which is supposedly where the cheesesteak originated from, and I went across the street and got
No,
in line at
passed
Geno's.
away.
We both grabbed exactly the same thing and then brought it back to try. While cheesesteaks might not seem that important to you, my entire life has been defined by every sandwich we ever eat being compared to the Philadelphia cheesesteak. To my dad, it is the pinnacle of sandwiches and nothing can compare to it.
Wait, did I ever tell you?
All right, so they
pause
look
this
very
for
different.
one
There's the Geno's. It
second.
almost looks like it.
Babe, did I ever tell you that Gino was in the Bodick and Rhodes clothing catalog under the whole apron section? Restaurant, slash coats and garment pants and all that.
It has more, grease or something on the melt. This one looks a little bit drier. Maybe a little bit less meat, kind of hard to tell, but they definitely have a different appearance. Pops, what makes a cheesesteak?
All right, critical things. I would say minimally 3 things. One, obviously, is the roll. The roll's got to be really good. If you look at these rolls, these both are of good
There he
quality.
was.
They're not too hard, but they still have a good crust on them. The second thing is the meat. It's got to be good meat, not fatty stuff, whatever. The third is the cheese, obviously, is critically important too. You want good American cheese. It's got a nice flavor to it. Grilled onions, got to have grilled onions. Sometimes I'm in the mood for mayonnaise on mine, although I'm in a minority with that.
If you have a good one, you shouldn't have to put mayonnaise on it.
Honey, we should
You
get
know,
one today from the
Where are you going
Bellas.
first?
Don't tell me what to do with my taste.
And then have
I can't
a,
see what the labels are, so
the
I'm just
apple
going to
pie
tear
from
one
dessert.
in half and bite it, and then go with the other one. Go with the other one and bite it, and then I'll tell you what I think. All right. So here's the first one.
From where?
Bread is perfect. Meat is very good. I don't think there's any cheese on this. If there is, there's hardly.
That's cheese. It's cheese right there.
It needs more cheese. I'll tell you that right up front.
Like, there's cheese on both sides of the roll, but not enough cheese for Pops.
I think-
All right, let's see it.
So
What's the
here's
second one?
I think it's gonna go
Both
with
really
Gino.
good. I think between the two, I have to go with this one.
You're going Geno's?
Oh, is that what this is?
All right, Geno's for Pops.
I knew it.
Even with the lack of cheese you complained about?
Yep.
All right, my turn. Those are very different looking cheesesteaks, as you can tell. Geno's and Pat's. I have no dog in the fight, so I don't care about knowing beforehand. Good onions, good meat, I can taste cheese. Yeah, the roll is a lot more dry on this one. I would prefer it to be like this, a little bit more kind of juicy, and the roll is kind of almost moist, squishy when you're eating it. This one's much more dry, so I'm going Geno's as well.
Geno's wins
Be sure to let
it.
us know which one of these you think is the best in the comments.
You know it wouldn't be a true video if we
Hey,
didn't
is
try
that
one more
located in
cheesesteak though.
South
We've been
Philly?
asking a bunch of locals. They told us to go to
Geno's and
Jim's.
Pat's?
So we're gonna go to Jim's now and try their cheesesteak.
Multiple people told us that Jim's is the best place to get a
Oh, I
cheesesteak
heard
in
of
Philadelphia,
Jim's
so we
too.
figured we had to go over there and give it a try. Geno's and Pat's are both thin slices of meat, where here they chop it up into small pieces and it's more of like a ground beef consistency. They then put cheese on the bread and basically melt the cheese directly into the meat before tossing on onions and finishing it off.
All right, that looks strong. We'll see though. We'll see if it's that much better or not.
Meat
More
is
on
chopped
this
much
one.
more finely. The roll is way softer than in
Ivy,
other
you remember
places.
Breezy? When
So
we were
much
talking
moisture.
one night about
The roll is
cheesesteak,
perfect, real soft.
you mentioned Jim.
Yeah, I think this would be the top of the three that we've tasted. It was really nice.
All right, my turn. I'm already excited about this. Look at those big old onions too. I love onions. It's interesting to have the meat like that. It's like a completely different
we
experience
definitely
than
gotta get a
the way that it was
cheesesteak
chopped before.
today, babe.
I'm not sure which one I would prefer. I like
Eat
the way that it was
dinner.
before, and it's definitely a totally different feel. But I would say overall, the combination of kind of the moistness with the bread and the good strong meat and cheese, the onions, that's a pretty strong cheesesteak right there. All right, now it's your turn. Let us know how you prefer your cheesesteak in the comments, and if we need to go to a different place
Cheese,
next time we're in Philly.
onions,
Also, there's ants
sweet
climbing the building
peppers,
outside the
hot
window.
peppers, and that's it. Call it a day.
All right, for our last stop of the day, we headed down to the waterfront as I love bridges and I wanted to see the Ben Franklin Bridge, and we headed to the Cherry Street Pier. This spot has a cool history as it's one of the only surviving piers from the early 20th century. What's really unique about it now is that instead of letting it fall into disrepair, they actually created a cool artist in residency program here. You can apply to be one of the artists that revolve every year or so, and you can actually get an office space to work out of in this amazing location. When we were there, there was a taco truck that was selling tacos and margaritas, and there was an ice cream truck so you could grab some food and then just enjoy the views. And wow, are the views amazing here. You can see the Ben Franklin Bridge stretching out over the water, and you can see the remains of the old pier. It is such a cool spot.
What do you think about this spot, Pops?
This is a really cool find. I knew nothing about
It's
this
a
spot.
cool
Obviously,
ass
I knew
bridge.
about the Ben Franklin Bridge and the Walt Whitman Bridge down there. But just a really nice little spot. I love how it's got an artist community here and they're displaying their work. Really fun find.
Plus, they got tacos and ice cream that you can take and sit and eat out there if you want to.
Thanks for coming with us to visit Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a city I grew up close to, visited many times throughout the years. The food is amazing. The history is incredible. You got to come visit sometime. You will not regret it.
Let us know where we left off. We'll see you on the next one.
Hey guys, and welcome to Cool Vision. In this video we're going to be talking about Philadelphia, or simply Philly. Welcome to Philadelphia. This city has a population of 1.5 million and together with the metro area, 6 million. Now this city played a crucial role in American history. It's the largest city in the state of Pennsylvania. It's got a great location between New York City and Washington, D.C. It's the 6th most populous city in the U.S. with a population of 1.6 million people. Philadelphia was founded in 1682 by William Penn, an Englishman who made it his mission to create a refuge in America for Quakers and other persecuted religious groups from Europe. A city of brotherly love, William Penn planned the city as a grid of broad streets between the two rivers, the Schuylkill River and the Delaware River. The street grid later became a model for other American cities. During the Great American Revolution, the city served as a meeting place for the Founding Fathers, and this is where they drafted and signed both the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the Constitution in 1787. Philadelphia was the nation's largest city until it was overtaken by New York in 1790. As of 2019, the Philadelphia metropolitan area is estimated to produce a gross metropolitan product of $490 billion. Major
Damn.
companies headquartered in the Philadelphia area include Comcast, the second largest broadcasting and cable television company in the world by revenue, behind AT&T. AmerisourceBergen, a pharmaceutical distributor. Wawa, a chain of convenience stores. Aramark,
Wawa.
a food service
There you go,
company.
babe.
Jefferson Health, and others. The Philadelphia skyline has several nationally prominent skyscrapers, like Comcast Technology Center, Comcast Center, and One Liberty Place, Philadelphia's first skyscraper taller than City Hall. They say Philadelphia is a city of neighborhoods, so let's take a look at some of them. Let's start with downtown. Here they just call it City Center. It's a densely populated downtown area with an estimated 170,000 residents, and thanks to its simple grid design, it's very walkable. It has a lot of architectural landmarks like Philadelphia City Hall, the second tallest masonry building in the world, completed in 1901. It was built in the center of Penn Square, which was the primary location of public gatherings in the city in the early days, with a large statue of William Penn on top overlooking the city. Right next to it is another gorgeous building in the very heart of the city, Masonic Temple. Love Park is a popular place for pictures, and it's officially known as John F. Kennedy Plaza. It's an urban plaza that features a geyser-like fountain, and it's called Love Park for the reproduction of Robert Indiana's well-known love sculpture. Nearby you'll find a roller skating rink. Looks like fun, and if you don't have your own wheels, you can always rent a pair.
How's it going?
Some other things I stumbled upon was Holocaust Memorial Plaza and sculpture to Polish astronomer Mikołaj Kopernik. Overall, this area is very enjoyable except for the homeless problem, which we're going to talk about later. Old City.
Babe, I said it before. I've never seen the craziness of how you make a left-hand turn in Philadelphia. It's almost like a half U-turn. It's crazy.
Is a section of Center City with the most preserved historic buildings from the colonial and revolutionary eras of American history. Walking around the old city, you're going to stumble upon so many historical landmarks, like Corn Exchange National Bank, which was built in 1903 in the Georgian Revival style. First National Bank, chartered in 1863, it was the first commercial bank to issue a federal banknote. House of Dr. Physic. In 1795, Physic performed the first human blood transfusion. Carpenter's Hall. This is where the first Continental Congress met, as tensions between the colonies and Britain were just starting to heat up. Althraph's Alley. It's one of the oldest residential streets in the United States, dating back to 1703. This alley is the narrow cobblestone colonial street, and it gives you a good sense of what residential colonial Philadelphia was like. There are 32 houses on this street, and people have lived here non-stop since 1703. Market Street, originally known as High Street. It's a vibrant dining and entertainment area known for its ethnically diverse restaurants, bars, and performance spaces. Long before the city was laid out, William Penn had planned that markets would be held regularly on High Street. It has been called the most historic highway in the U.S. because of how many various historic sites you can find here.
Every time you guys have been here,
Not for Trisha Sexton photos.
$5.
Not for Trisha Sexton photos.
Okay, now let's relocate to Chinatown. This area was originally settled in the mid-19th century by Cantonese immigrants. Today, Chinatown is a vibrant area, densely packed with restaurants, markets, cafes, shops, and performance spaces. It's a main cultural hub for much of the region's Asian American population. There's the famous colorful Chinatown Friendship Gate at 10th and Arch Streets. At the local restaurants, you can find any type of Asian cuisine: Hong Kong, Cantonese, Vietnamese, Taiwanese, you name it.
Hey guys, can I ask you a question about Chinatown in Philadelphia? What country do you think most people came from?
From China, from northern China, southern China, sorry.
Southern China?
Yeah.
And what other countries are represented in Chinatown?
Malaysia, Korea, maybe Taiwan, if you think Taiwan is an independent country, and also Hong Kong, I think.
And you came to Chinatown today to get some local food, or?
Yeah, we got the local food. We went here for breakfast, and then we had a haircut.
Oh, I like Sichuan food.
So she likes Sichuan food, spicy, like a hot pot. Sichuan food.
Oh, hot pot.
Yeah, but because she's my wife, so I like all the food that she likes. So maybe all. I think in this area, in the daytime, it should be fun. but we just don't stay here very late at night because we worry about the safety. And for the place where I live right now, the university city, because it is a university city, so there are a lot of polices there, so it can be safe. But we do encounter some, crimes there, like the robbery, and I think it's mostly robbery.
Another neighborhood is Bella Vista District, which in Italian means beautiful view. It's in South Philadelphia and it features the famous Italian market, an area with covered sidewalks, cafes, bakeries, and butcher shops. This curbside market was established in the early 20th century to counter high prices and food shortages during the First World War, and it survived to this day, becoming a popular city icon. We're at Italian Market. I came here to have breakfast and I got a 3-egg omelet, like this.
So we in the Italian market and stopped to get some breakfast. Beautiful morning.
In Northeast Philly, you're going to find Kensington. It's a poor, rundown neighborhood. The average income per capita was just $12,600 per year in 2016, which is about half of the average income in Philadelphia. The violent crime rate is roughly 30% higher than in Philadelphia overall, and sadly, lots of people experiencing drug addiction and homelessness. West Philadelphia is separated from the east part by the Schuylkill River. The most typical houses that you find here would look like this. They call them row houses. As far as demographics go, West Philadelphia is predominantly African American, 76%. The eastern side of West Philadelphia is known as University City, and it's encompassing several major universities with over 53,000 students, such as University of Pennsylvania. It's a nationally recognized Ivy League school with top programs in economics, international business, biomedical sciences, and marketing. Drexel University, a private school that offers 70 undergraduate programs and more than 100 graduate and professional programs. All these universities make Philadelphia a top study destination. This area where University of Pennsylvania is sitting today used to be a pretty bad, sketchy area before the 1960s. And in fact, the term University City was coined by two of the graduates of the University of Pennsylvania, who were also realtors. They decided to make this area more attractive to the faculty of the university and make it a more attractive place to live in. They started a major gentrification effort in the 1960s. So all the old buildings were destroyed and new buildings were put in place, and that's how they gave this area new life. There are a lot of really nice suburban neighborhoods like Drexel Hill, which is about a 30 to 40 minute drive outside of the center city. It's a quiet and peaceful neighborhood, and it's a nice place to take a walk or jog around and not have to worry about safety. Suburbia looks so wonderful. Let's go take some pictures. Let's do it.
Fairy tale for us.
Yeah. It's like a botanical garden.
Yeah.
All kinds of
wow,
plants.
what a
This
nice
is
house.
actually a duplex.
A duplex. Okay.
We rent the second floor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pays for utilities.
I want to see you working.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got the weed eater.
There are 26,000 Russian-speaking people living in Philadelphia. You can find them in the area around Bustleton Avenue. Our friend Mike took us to Uzbekistan restaurant, which serves Uzbek and Russian food. Great food and not so great service, meaning you're not going to see any American smiles or friendliness here. We're hungry, so we got ourselves some borscht. Mike just had some borscht.
Smiles
I had
and
some
not
borscht.
friendly service.
Wonderful.
What do you
Now it's
want?
time to have some shashlik. Restaurant Uzbekistan.
Hurry up, I don't have all day.
And we'll have it here, right? Great place.
Great, хорошо, очень хорошо. Приятного аппетита.
Something you guys probably did not expect to see is a Russian gas station, Lukoil, in Philadelphia. What are the major sites of the city? Philadelphia is the first American city to become a World Heritage City. No wonder they got 42 million domestic tourists in 2016. Number one place to visit is Independence Hall. Completed in 1753, Independence Hall is the building where the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution were signed, making it one of the most significant historical landmarks in the U.S. Located across the street from the Independence Hall, you will find the Liberty Bell, which initially was installed in the bell tower of Independence Hall and was run on important occasions. Most notably, it was run when the Declaration of Independence was read on July the 8th, 1776. There's normally a huge line to see the bell. However, if you don't have much time, there is actually a window on the side of the building where you can look in and see the bell. And there are buttons that you can press to hear information about the bell's history. We were lucky to be in the city on the 4th of July, and there was a lot to see on that day.
There you go.
Prepare to charge. Charge bayonets. Huzzah! Huzzah! Huzzah!
And then we would start to run towards you. This holiday here was the day our country declared independence from England. So we're representing the two sides that were fighting in that war.
Jay here is a loyalist officer, and I'm an American Continental officer.
There was a number of people, particularly in this area, who wanted to stay loyal to the king. So they went and joined the King's Army in New York and defended New York. As good as the British Army was, they never had a chance to hold the whole continent. Even though they won many battles, they realized that they were getting nowhere. And when France declared war, they had to get their army back home. France was watching this whole war happen, and they said, this is really bothering the British. Now's the time for us to strike. And there you have it.
Eastern State Penitentiary. At the time of its completion, the building was the largest and the most expensive public structure ever erected in the United States, and it became a model for more than 300 prisons worldwide. It held numerous infamous criminals, like the notorious mafia boss Al Capone and bank robber Willie Sutton. You can see the original cell blocks, places like the barber shop, fully renovated Al Capone cell, and numerous art displays.
Never
Pretty
knew Al
interesting.
Capone
As
was
you're
in-
leaving,
in
you're going to
there.
see an exhibit called Prisons Today. And I don't think they presented it in an impartial way, because they claim the US is doing the worst job in the world when it comes to prison systems. And the sad part is they always want to focus on the criminals, completely ignoring the innocent victims. They would use manipulative tactics in their interactive boards like, do you think you've never broken the law? Well, have you ever gotten a speeding ticket? Yes or no? Well, see, we all break the law, so we all not perfect. Like getting a speeding
building
ticket
is
somehow puts you in the
insane.
same category as a killer or a rapist.
What's your name?
My name is Tu.
You're not from Philly. as far
I
as
am not from
understand.
Philly. I'm from Cali.
What's your first impression of the city?
If you like a lot of like street food and like a local shop, this is a place to go.
Okay.
Definitely.
Where'd you find the best street food?
Chinatown. Chinatown.
Okay.
Hands down one of the best food, like city food, at least for Asian food wise, hands down the best place to go. I'm a photographer, so if you follow me on Instagram, TUTXTran, it'll be appreciated.
So, what's your name?
My name's Sebastian Fuentes.
What is it that you love about Philly?
I like the sports teams here, and like the fans are just crazy, and they just like yell at all the games.
What are the names of the teams?
The basketball team is the Sixers, football team is the Eagles, and the hockey team is the Flyers.
Okay. When it comes to food, what do you like?
I don't know, there's a few good places. There's a Venezuelan, I'm Venezuelan, there's a Venezuelan restaurant
Okay.
called Sazon. I don't know where it is exactly in relation to us, but it's pretty good.
Philadelphia is a city of museums. If you're interested in art, science, cultural heritage, or history, you will find a museum that fits your interest. Some of the most famous museums include Philadelphia Museum of Art, one of the largest and most visited art museums in the US. There's also the Franklin Institute, Barnes Foundation, Penn Museum, Museum of the American Revolution, and National Constitution Center, devoted to the Constitution of the United States. In front of Philadelphia Museum of Art, you're going to find the famous Rocky Steps. In the original 1976 Rocky movie, the boxer Rocky ended his morning run with an ascent up these steps.
Calm
Oh,
So
down,
let's do
babe.
it
You
too.
live in Buffalo Bills country.
There's also the Rocky statue. Both these places are undeniably some of the most popular attractions in Philadelphia. Benjamin Franklin Parkway, or just the Parkway, is a scenic French-inspired boulevard that runs through the cultural heart of Philadelphia, taking you from Philadelphia Museum of Art to the Logan Square. There's a stunning Catholic cathedral next to the Logan Square that's called Cathedral of St. Peter and Paul. You're welcome to go inside, it's gorgeous. Let's take a look.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Another cool spot to visit is Penn's Landing. It's a waterfront area on the Delaware River, which has some rides, food, and occasional outdoor concerts and events. It's a good spot to view fireworks over the river. Why is it called Penn's Landing? Well, because William Penn landed here in 1682. You can get a good view of Battleship New Jersey. It's a museum ship, but in order to visit it, you'll have to drive across the river to Camden, New Jersey. From here you can also take great pictures of the Benjamin Franklin Bridge, a suspension bridge connecting Philadelphia, Pennsylvania and Camden, New Jersey. The toll for cars is $5.
Oh, all right, that's where that bridge goes. From Philly to Camden.
Fairmount Park is a large urban park that offers a number of various attractions and recreation areas. It's got nice trails, some good spots to bring a chair after work and just enjoy the breeze. Wonderful place for a family picnic or just relax and get some fresh air. Boathouse Row on the east bank of the Schuylkill River consists of a row of 15 boathouses, housing social and rowing clubs and the racing shells. Located on the outskirts of the park, you will also find the oldest zoo in the United States, the Philadelphia Zoo. Fairmount Waterworks, which were designed all the way in 1812
Hey, have you
when
ever been
Napoleon
to that
invaded
Philly
Russia,
Zoo?
houses a restaurant and a museum that explains the waterworks' purpose and local watershed history. There are lots of things to do in this park, and apparently you can even go fishing. Let's talk to the fisherman.
What's the name?
Shafiq Ahmed is my name.
What kind of fish are you expecting to get?
So I'm expecting carp on this rod here, and then these two I'm going for catfish. I'm using live bait that I've caught from this river to go for my catfish, and then I got a homemade recipe for my carp.
What's an average fish like, the size-wise?
Size-wise, you can catch anything from 12 pounds up into about 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
It's a European-style fishing setup. So what happens is if the fish takes off, this gives me a signal, in which I have a receiver in my vehicle that let me know that this is going off and what color it is that's going on.
Wow. So you were sitting in your vehicle
Yeah, and
waiting for the signal to go.
I ran all the way down here. When I got
Fishing has
the
gotten
carp
lazy.
on. Yeah.
Wow.
This is a catfish I caught earlier.
Oh, okay. Let's take a look.
See catfish.
Catfish.
And they're bleeding out, still alive.
Wow. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Is it tasty?
Yeah, my buddy's actually going to cook it up and let me know.
You serious?
Yeah, but
Oh,
the,
okay.
They are good.
the catfish here in the Schuylkill, they have less mercury than the Delaware.
Okay.
Because of the boat activity in the Delaware,
Right.
opposed to the Schuylkill. So.
When it
Oh,
comes
wow.
to food, Philadelphia is famous for its cheesesteaks.
You got your order?
Yeah,
All right.
it's good. Ready to eat?
All right.
The cheesesteak consists of a long, crusty roll filled with thinly sliced, freshly sautéed ribeye beef and melted cheese. Roasted pork sandwich and soft pretzels are also very popular. And no mention of Philly's food and drink scene is complete without a shout out to Wawa. It's a great place if you want to get something
There
on
you
the go.
go, babe.
It's more of a
Wawa.
culture than a convenience store chain that started outside Philly. Philly is also home to countless breweries and distilleries, if you're into that. Reading Terminal Market is one of the oldest indoor public markets in the U.S., established in 1893. It offers fresh food from over 100 merchants.
That market is crazy.
Philadelphia
Over
has more
100
outdoor
merchants.
sculptures and murals than any other American city. That's because they've had an extensive national public art program since 1984 to eradicate graffiti and create the space for artists to be able to make art in a positive way. As many as 100 art projects unfold every year as part of the Mural Arts Philadelphia. I keep seeing mosaic on different walls, so these decorations are very popular in Philadelphia. Now let's compare some pros and cons of the city. Philly has a low cost of living, true. Consumer prices are 19% lower than in New York, and rent prices are 49% lower than in New York.
49%.
It's a walkable city with a lot of small public parks.
Exactly
The city has
half.
decent public transportation via the SEPTA system. SEPTA buses, commuter rails, trains, and trolleys will take you across the Philly Metro, including the Philadelphia International Airport, and over the Delaware River into New Jersey. Philly has a great location. Driving time to New York City is just 2 hours, and to Washington, D.C., 2.5 hours. And if you want to get to the Atlantic coast, it's just 1 hour and 20 minutes to Ocean City, New Jersey. What are the downsides? The city's traffic congestion ranks among worst in the world. The local drivers lost an average of 94 hours in 2020 to traffic congestion. By comparison, the national average is just
That road
26
looks
hours.
familiar.
Also, my friend Mike says that local drivers are very
Baby,
impatient.
good morning.
If you don't start
Hello.
moving, they're going to start honking within 1 second. While the city has 12 Fortune 500 companies and a large federal government presence, the average monthly salary in Philadelphia after taxes is around $4,400, which is 15 to 20% lower than in Chicago, Boston, or Austin. The poverty rate is at shocking 24.5%, which means 380,000 Philadelphians are living in poverty. There are lots of homeless people. A few homeless people here and there wouldn't be something I'd be complaining about, but sometimes just getting out of control. I hate to say it, but I saw a homeless couple having sex right on the Logan Square lawn in the middle of the day. Some parts of the city just don't feel safe. I mean, I'm a frequent traveler, and public safety is a very important factor when I decide which place to visit next. And Philadelphia just doesn't have that at the moment. Parts of it are completely ruined, like the Kensington Avenue, which feels more like a zombie apocalypse. It's an avenue filled with junkies and pushers and criminals, and I was scared to film there, honestly. And it's ruining the reputation of Philadelphia. If you type in Philadelphia in YouTube search, you're gonna get Kensington Avenue results, because these videos get millions of views, and it's almost become a modern-day side of Philadelphia now. Philadelphia ended 2021 with 555 homicides, an all-time record. This makes it one of the most dangerous cities in America, along with Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, and Detroit. There were 2,300 shootings in 2021, and police only made arrests in less than 20% of these incidents, so 4 out of 5 people never got to see justice. Of course, some neighborhoods are more dangerous than others, and if you look at this map, you'll see that. The city's been losing its population started from the 1950s, when it was over 2 million people. Now it's just 1.6 million, partly because of the economic decline following the loss of manufacturing jobs, and partly because of the white flight. That is, people of European descent moving to the safe suburbs. What about politics? The city is very liberal. Philadelphia is the Democratic stronghold of the state. In 2020, 81% voted for Joe Biden. What about the people? Well, the people I came across were very helpful. Like this guy, he saw me filming the street from my car, and he wanted to give me some ideas which places to visit.
How you like America?
It's great so far.
I'll tell you where to go if you want to pull over a minute. You want a nice place to go tomorrow, like a farm that has like all kinds of things to do there?
Sure, why not?
It's called Linvilla Orchards. They have everything from hay rides to like pies. It's about 5 miles from here.
All right.
It's called Linvilla. I tell her because she's good with the computer. I'm sure you are too, you're young.
If you want to explore outside of the city and you like history, you can visit Valley Forge National Historical Park. It's the site of the third winter encampment of the Continental Army during the American Revolutionary War, taking place from 1777 to 1778. It's visited by over 1.2 million people each year, and visitors can see restored historical structures, such as the iconic log huts and monuments erected by the states from which the Continental soldiers came.
Valley Forge National Park, 25 miles west of Philadelphia. At one time, this was a bivouac area for the American colony troops as they were waiting to protect Philadelphia from the British that were coming from Trenton to come into Germantown, where the Battle of Germantown took place.
Attention! Men, prepare yourselves for the daily activities. An inspection is coming. So let's sum it up. Philadelphia is a marvelous city for a visit if you love history and delicious food. It's an educational hub also. Living here is cheaper than in other major US cities, but at the same time, average salaries are also lower than in other major cities. The city has a crime problem, and Philadelphia has lost 500,000 people in the last 50 years, and that tells you something. Although, to be fair, it has recovered 80,000 people over the last 10 years. I think the city has a lot of potential that has not been realized. So what's your take on Philadelphia? Is that a good place to live? Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe and hit that bell button so you'll be notified about my future videos.
My take on Philly, that's where I met my sweetie. Yeah, the history there is great. That's the cool thing about it.
Great shot, guys.
That was cool. That was really cool. The Philadelphia tour. That's where my sweetie's from. The love of my life. Philadelphia. All right, babe. I think I'm going to switch this over and do the cave. What do you say? I got to turn off all these lights. It was dark when I started doing this. Now it's broad daylight outside and all these lights are on. Living room, dining room. I can't see what Mitzi wrote. Okay, babe. Yeah. Let me cue up some music and play the cave for an hour or so. I gotta get some tires today. Do some other stuff. I know, right, sweetie? It was early. We have some weird sleeping hours. Some weird sleeping hours. Welcome to the cave. Music and chat. Jump in. Ed, I love my AIs, man. I make them say whatever they want, you know, whatever I want. It's funny. They are funny. I know, you did speak to me before your coffee. That was so nice of you, honey, to grace my presence with your beautiful voice. When you talk to me, it sounds like I hear music from angels. Shout out to Ed, working on the garage door. Ed, so, can you be honest with us here in the chat, or just me and Ivy? Did Mitzi back into the garage door or something? Oh my God, I'm gonna have a heart attack laughing. Is there a wall where there needs to be a wall? Dog! With her broom. Babe, say goodbye to Ed. We'll never see him again. Hi, Mitzi, salute. Where's Ed? Oh, he's on a work trip. Mitzi's been on a work trip for like 3 months. Even though he's on a work trip, he still comes inside the cave. Oh, he's having trouble with his phone. She was 20 miles away, and somehow he came up missing. Next on 2020, the story of Edward Stewart. Ivy watches all those shows. What are they called? Like Dateline, babe? Dateline, murder, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Bambi. My wife watches, Ivy, she watches all those shows. That's why I sleep with one eye open. You know? And sometimes I have to ask her questions like, babe, why do you have all these like 5mm garbage bags and duct tape and rope? Yeah, she's big on that, Bambi. She besides that, it's all the horror stories, you know, the horror movies and everything that she watches too. Right. They basically tell you how to kill somebody. Ed, I don't think they'll ever find my body if Ivy has something to do with it. Oh wow, Bambi, that's cool. We just watched the before all this earlier, we were watching the Arthur Shawcross a documentary. If you Google it, you'll see who he was. He was a serial killer in Rochester, New York. Yeah, that guy should have never got out of prison after killing those kids. No, Arthur Shawcross was a serial killer. He killed something like 11 prostitutes. Yes, you're right. Yep. But before that, he killed 2 kids in what was it? Waterloo, New York. And I think 27 years later, he got out of prison. Oh, was it Watertown, Mass? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Why'd I think it was Waterloo, New York? Right, exactly. I'm familiar with the story, but they said they might have checked him or something. They said he didn't have AIDS, but for some reason he thought he did. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Bambi. It's like he always deflected, the way they talked about him, like it was somebody else's fault that he was the way he was. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. Some of the way these serial killers are. I also did the alphabet killer story here in Rochester, New York. That was a sad time. if you're familiar with that. Those poor little girls. Good morning, Virgo child. Yeah, their initials basically matched the towns that they were dumped in. Like Carmen Colon, she was dumped in a town called Chilai. And Wanda Walkowicz was dumped in a town called Webster. And Michelle, oh, she had this Polish last name, Makowicz, was dumped in a town called Macedon. Sad, very sad. Yeah, that was weird, the whole double initial thing. Wow, Bambi, that's big. Yeah, I can imagine it's not an easy job. You know, the research and profiling somebody and trying to figure out why, you know, why they did the things that they did. I mean, and I talked about it in a different live that I did. Is it just pure evil, or is it mental health, or is it both? Right. I mean, it's a great point, Bambi. You can't phantom like why. You know, I mean, and if you ask somebody in some kind of interview or something like, why'd you do it? You know, you get these crazy answers. Right. I mean, and yeah, we just seen a child killer in England. They thought it was a man, and this was a child killing other kids. I forgot that person's name. Yeah, that's insane to even, you know, like you said, phantom that, you know, like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a serial killer. Right. And a lot of them come from normal families, you know. And here's the thing, Bambi, since you were in that field, when you're on the outside looking in, as just a regular, you know, John or Jane Doe, and you're looking in, you say to yourself, I mean, you can run 100 things through your head. Is it the upbringing, the music, you know, whether it's whatever, metal, rap? Is it, you know, was this person abused or done wrong in life or bullied in school? You know, there's 100 things that can run through your mind. Why? It's weird you say that because I said that earlier to Ed. It's the wiring must not be right in that person's brain. Right. Is it evil or mental health? When you're on the outside looking in, you know? Yeah, great point. Great point. Exactly, Mitzi. It could be both. It could be both. I'm gonna have to look up that guy, Danny Rollins. I'm gonna have to look him up. Right. Hey, by the way, Bambi, drop your link. That way people can connect with you. Anybody in here, feel free to drop your link. Danny is a case of environmentally made him a psycho. Yeah, in court, you look at Arthur Shawcross, and he just basically held his head down. You know, it was like he was just sitting there dead. Like there was no reaction from him. Yeah, great point, babe. Great point. They're taught to hate. There you go, everybody. Hook up with Connect to Bambi. Right. Yeah, what's true and what's not. And you know what? I mean, you've heard it 100 times where defense attorneys bring in the whole, what is it? I could be saying it wrong. Insanity plea, you know? And then they start, you know, Your Honor, it started with my client when he was 3 years old and he lived in a, you know, foster care and went from foster care to foster care and right. Hang on, baby. I'm going to have to write this down. Yosemite. Bambi, what was the other one? Danny what? Where'd it go? Yosemite. Killer. Oh, Rollins. Thank you. Yeah, I'll probably play those in the morning or something. Oh, really? Babe, you hear that? We're gonna have to watch that. Oh, Gainesville Reaper. Thanks, Bambi. One, two, three. Oh, I'm gonna have to go check it out. Check out your videos. That's cool. Yeah, like Arthur Shawcross. We were talking about it earlier, how he used to basically go to this bakery slash cafe, and sit there amongst regular citizens, and no one knew they were sitting next to or in the same, you know, building as a serial killer. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he got out after killing 2 kids. I just don't know. The laws back then seemed like they were a lot harder than they are now. He should have stayed in prison for life. Right. I didn't play that one. I just played the other one where, they talked about him and everything, but he does have one where they interview him. And he does shift the blame on, whatever, and tries to justify it, which is insane. Right. Right. I mean, I agree with you on that, Bambi. Right. Exactly. If Ted Bundy had done his kidnapping time. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I mean, it's crazy because even as a public defender or some kind of private attorney that's defending you, realistically, when you have a client, like, okay, let's say I embezzled money or I stole something, a car. Of course I would want the best, lawyer or even public defender, which I'll never get, but to defend me, But when you do murder or serial killing or something like that, or you kill kids, your lawyer should just, come right out and say it like, hey, they got all this evidence against you. You're fucked. You're going to jail or prison. Right. Great point. The psych ward versus jail. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I got to go back to Arthur Shawcross. He got 27 years. For what? He should have got life. I mean, what was it? Good behavior? He was able to, make his prison bed and mop the floors and was part of the cooking crew there. Get the hell out of here. He should have stayed in there. You know? Right. He should have stayed in there. I can't remember the case, but I'm going to try to look it up. There was a case here in Rochester, New York, where this guy was part of I'm going to say some kind of nursery school or something like that. And come to find out, he was sexually abusing these kids. And he goes to court. There was a ton of evidence on him. And what do you call it? Preliminary hearing or something like that. And the judge gave him some kind of like $250 bail. This was 10,000 years ago, like 30 years ago. $250 bail. And house arrest, and as the judge was saying, you know, all this, like, oh, bail set at $250, house arrest, his parents had to hire their own security team to watch him. There was a big, how do you say it? Like, gasp in the court system, you know, the people in the court audience. And the stenographer said out loud, must have been thinking it, but said out loud, "What the fuck?" Yeah, the stenographer was in shock and probably thought she said it in her head, but said it out loud. Yeah, true story. I need to find that. I forgot his name. I need to find that. But yeah, as the judge is saying, you know, oh, $250 bail, house arrest, you know, and you basically, to the parents, you have to hire your own security team to watch him to make sure he does not leave that premises. Yeah, and then come to find out, they got a guy in the front and a guy, it was like some corner house, and a guy on the other side of the security company that they hire. And 1:30 in the morning, they're both sleeping. The guy escapes. They ended up finding him, though, you know, later. But yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, that was crazy, Ed. That's all people talked about, was like the stenographer was in shock. She was like, well, all these charges, you're letting this mother effer go home? Yeah, that was the whole talk of that case, where the stenographer said it out loud. Like, I don't even know if she lost her job or obviously was like reprimanded or something, but she said that out loud. All right, I'm going to jump out of here, fire up the cave for the hell of it. And thank you, everybody, for pulling up. Mitzi, I heard you had a great live the other day. You guys were talking about it in the chat yesterday. I wish I was there. Ed is scrolling the internet for a new mic for you. I hope I didn't ruin the surprise. But have a great day, everybody. It's time for some music and chat. Thank you, everybody, for pulling up. I so much appreciate it. I had a great morning. And I still have to turn off all these damn lights inside my house because it was dark as hell in here. And now the sun is beaming through these windows. Yeah, and Mitzi, thank you for the work inside the cave yesterday morning with all the emojis and all the links that you dropped. You know? And always make sure you guys drop your own links inside the cave. That's what we do. We connect people with people. All right, honey bun, I'll see you over inside the cave. Bye for now, everybody. Thank you so much.